The visuals were not visualizing. There are definitely moments in here that makes you want to crawl inside a ditch. 386. Why does this feel so much thicker than this book? Am I crazy? Hi friends, today I have a highly anticipated video that I have been planning for quite some time now. I actually didn't know when I wanted to release this video, but I figured today would be a good day as any to release my Ali Hazelwood tier ranking of all her published book prior to Not in Love. So I just picked this up yesterday at my independent bookstore and I got an independent bookstore edition. First of all, I got a signed copy, which is amazing. I'm super happy about that. But the independent bookstore version has this beautiful artwork in the front, and I absolutely cannot wait to devour this book. But before we start that, which will be in my reading vlog coming up next week, let's talk about my glorious tier ranking of all of Ali Hazelwood's books aside from the novellas. We're going to start at the bottom with my least favorite and going all the way to the top with my most favorite. And without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, let's talk about my least favorite Ali Hazelwood book, which is Love on the Brain. I've also heard from other booktubers who generally enjoy Ali Hazelwood books that this is also their least favorite book. This book got a solid 2-star rating from me, and I just felt like it was a wild ride the whole way through. I binge read it, and on the screen, I will show you guys the graph of my day-to-day reading, and you can see that I binge read it within 24 hours because in my head at the time, the only thing I was thinking was, it can't be this bad. Ali Hazelwood has never done me wrong. And you know what she did? She did me wrong with this one. She did me dirty with this one because I was just coming off the high of 2 very, very good Ali Hazelwood books. And this one just did not hit the mark at all for me. It felt extremely, extremely short of my expectations. So let's talk about the actual book. I do not remember the male lead at all in this book. I gotta be real honest with you guys. I felt like I blacked out majority of my reading experience with this book. All I got from it were the upset emotions I had reading about this book. The female lead was a little too quirky for my opinion and for my taste. I felt like there were instances that were heavy on the miscommunication trope. I'm not someone who cares much about miscommunication. Yes, it can be frustrating at times, but this took it to a whole other level. I felt like if those two could just sit down and straight up say what they needed to say, the book would have been 100 pages shorter. In fact, if you cut out the Twitter shenanigans, 100 pages shorter. You did not need to have that added layer of convolutedness about the Twitter shenanigans. We did not need that. I felt like that was just an extra level of plot that just seemed irrelevant but also stress-inducing. I don't know, I just did not enjoy this book. It felt like it was played on the miscommunication trope a little bit too much. Also, what's up with the ending? Because all of a sudden, we turn out to be part of the Scooby-Doo squad and B finds out that she's been sabotaged. She goes up, investigates it herself, and the criminal pulls a goddamn gun on her ass. What did I just read? The story just took a 180 turn at that moment, and I literally stared at the page and I said, is this for real? Because it just took a 180 turn. I was speechless. And I'm still speechless to this day. So unfortunately, this book did not hit the mark for me. I felt like they could have resolved the situation if the male lead was super upfront about what he wanted with her, which is a relationship and how he feels about her, instead of being wishy-washy and letting her interpret things her own way. Also, I hated the way she interpreted things. I felt like she always took the worst of the situation and spun it to the way she wants it to be. So I didn't really enjoy that. I also felt like the whole ordeal between the best friend and the ex-boyfriend cheating on her, she shouldn't have forgiven her best friend. I don't really recall if she forgave her 100% or not, but I didn't need that part in the book either. It didn't add any level of depth or character to be as a person for me. Overall, I really disliked this book. I just was not having fun throughout the whole book. I was mainly just hate reading it at that point. Wow, that last review was a little bit harsh, but sometimes you just need a little bit of tough love, okay? And I also think that it makes her writing more human. There are books that I enjoy and there are books that I don't, but she is still one of my auto-buy authors, even though I didn't like Love on the Brain so much. And I just think that's the best part about being an author, is seeing what worked and what didn't. So she's still an auto-buy for me. I definitely bought Not in Love, and if I enjoy Not in Love, you know for sure I will be purchasing the next book that she comes out with. So the next book on my totem pole is Checkmate, and I gave it a solid 3-star rating. Unfortunately, I was just not feeling it with this book. Neither Nolan or Mallory were kind of my kind of characters, and honestly, I felt like it was giving very Queen's Gambit vibe, but YA, and a little less cohesive and focused on chess and more about her relationship dealing with her family and how Mallory kind of lost herself because she's just focusing on her family only. But the thing that really irritated me in the book was how easily the author resolved the situation in the family. I felt like there were a lot of very deep-rooted issues, and it shouldn't have just been resolved just like that. I felt like there should have been more harsh consequences and discussion surrounding how her sisters treated her, because they treated her really badly throughout the whole novel, and it kind of gets brushed off for a happy family ending when I don't think it should have really been like that, because at some point the family dynamics and the family relationship will strain because of how they treated her, and I felt like it should have been dealt with, but it really wasn't. And that's also a really big reason why I didn't give it as high of a rating as I would have. Another thing about the book that I didn't really like was just the relationship between Nolan and Mallory. They just did not feel like a true couple to me. Yes, there were romantic moments of them learning how to play chess together, studying chess, studying the board. Yes, that is super cute. But when it came down to it, I felt like they broke up, but they never really got back together. So in my mind, it doesn't really feel like they resolved any of the issues and misunderstandings that they had surrounding the fact that he paid for her chess study, right? Because that's still a really big, relevant part of the story. And Hazelwood did not really address or resolve it. It was kind of left in the open for the readers to interpret how their relationship is going to grow. And what is the point of that if it's a romance book? I want to see them get together at the end, like a true get together, instead of some various articles that implies that they are together. It just didn't feel like a satisfying ending for a romance book, in my opinion. The last aspect that kind of sealed the deal for me is the fact that it is a YA book, but Ali Hazelwood tiptoes the line between YA and adult very clearly with the mention and discussion of sex. I felt like it wasn't even needed. Like, Mallory as a character did not need to include that much mention of sex at all, in my opinion. And the fact that it gets brought up every couple of chapters just did not make any sense to me. It's fine for her to be confident in her body and feel sexy and be able to have sex, but it was not needed in this book. I don't know what was the point of that, and she really tiptoed that line, and I just did not enjoy it. Either go all the way and make this an adult book. It just made me feel so awkward as a reader when I was reading it, because I don't know what I was supposed to take from that. All in all, plot-wise, romance-wise, I think it was a pretty average read. It wasn't necessarily super bad, but as you heard previously, I do have some minor gripes about how things were executed, and I wish it was done a little bit better or leaning more towards romance or adult genre than just skimming the line on the top. So let's talk about the third book on my totem pole, and it is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This book received 4 stars for me, and it is an earlier release of this year. This is a paranormal romance between a vampire and a werewolf. I am not really fazed by vampires, werewolf, and all of the anatomy that comes along with that territory at all. I'm a pretty secured veteran. So this book isn't what I would consider super spicy. There are spicy scenes with anatomy that you may not be familiar with. However, the smut here isn't so intense that you feel like it's unnecessary, which I really like in a book. The only reason why I gave it a 4-star rating is that while I love Lo so much as a character, he is a green flag walking through the courtyard until the last third of the book, in which he throws her insecurities at her because he has decided that he himself, just him, is going to make the decision on what is best for Misery. And I hate that in a trope. I really hate it, and it bumped the score down to half a point. I felt like it was unnecessary. He should have talked to her like an adult. Even then, he really should have picked a better time and place. Spoiler warning, because they basically do it in her apartment, and he decides at that moment he was going to let her go. And in order to let her go and make sure that she's not dependent on him, he's gonna drive a knife where it hurts, and that means throwing her insecurities at her. I hated that part so much. It was unnecessary and immature and ridiculous, and it made me hurt so much for Misery as a character. I felt like she deserves the world. She deserves everything. After all of the abuse she has faced in the human world, after losing and missing her best friend and how abusive her father is, she needed more. And Lo did that to her, and I was so upset I had to bump down my rating because I felt like he was a walking green flag. And then why did you turn pink all of a sudden, sir? Why did you do that? I know you were trying to help her. I know you have her best interest in mind, but do it better, pick a better time, pick better phrases, or learn to communicate. I just also hate when male characters decide on their own what is good for the female characters. That's not me. I like my women to be independent and badass. And unfortunately, because he did that, I was just like, Lo, you were so close on being like a green flag, a male figure, but that part just really bumped it down for me. However, I am really excited for the potential sequel to this, which follows her best friend and Lo's best friend, because they are, guess what? Also mates. I just felt like I liked the personality of her best friend and his best friend a lot more, so I think I will enjoy that book even more than this book. So that is an anticipated 4 to 5 star read for me. So while I did say I bumped down half a point for Lo, I bumped another half a point down, and this isn't really the book's fault or Ali Hazelwood's fault. I felt like this is a very particularly me reason, and most of you guys probably will not experience this, but so the book talked a lot about how she's a computer engineer slash security engineer, and I really did not like that part. I felt like it was ridiculous. It made no sense, and the time frame and the materials and resources she was given, nothing really clicked. But I know that it's a very particular instance for me just because I'm well versed in the area, that I felt like the situations that were given were not really realistic, but it's a book and I shouldn't really have any gripes about it. But here I am. I didn't really like it, so I did bump it down to half a point. However, I don't think anyone else would have this issue. So for your read, it might just be a 5-star read for you, just because you might not care as much about how impactful the technology aspect of this is, because it's a little bit ridiculous. All right, now the last 2 books are fighting for first place. Both of these are solid 5 stars for me for entirely different reasons. So after some careful consideration, the book that is number 2 on my total poll is The Love Hypothesis. This book is a solid 5-star read for me, and it is the book that got me back into reading. You might be wondering, if it is the book that got you back into reading, why isn't it number 1? And it is because this book isn't without its flaws. There are definitely moments in this book, reflecting back, makes it a little bit less perfect. There are definitely moments in here that makes you want to crawl inside a ditch and die of cringe, because some of the situation that her best friend An puts her in is a little bit ridiculous. Like, if you were my best friend, I would make you eat bugs, because girl, please, why are you embarrassing me in front of all these people? However, I still think it's a fun, easy, and fast-paced book to read. I just absolutely love how Carlson adores her and babies her. That's probably my favorite part about this book. Does this book kind of read like a fan fiction? I can definitely see that, especially given how little character details were given to Carlson. You kind of know how he looks like and his attitude. He can definitely be built up upon a little bit more, but it doesn't make the book any less enjoyable. In fact, I think it makes it easier to read, and that's why I probably ate this up really fast and it got me back into reading, because I'm so familiar with fan fiction as a whole. I just really enjoyed this book. It just hit all the right spots for my serotonin release. One of the reasons why this book was not ranked higher than Love Theoretically is the ending and the miscommunication at the ending, because I felt like the minute she found out how foul his friend is, she should have just been upfront with him. But no, we had this little miscommunication trope going on and it got dragged on a little bit. I didn't really enjoy that, especially given how much you have seen him give you and how much he babies you. I felt like it should have just clicked in her head that he is someone you can tell these things to, especially given how predatory the circumstances was. I really felt like she should have just, at the very least, told someone higher up than just not do anything about it at all and keep it to herself. That's just my honest opinion. That's probably why this one did not rank as high as Love Theoretically did for me, but still, I really enjoyed this book all the way through. I absolutely adore the babying. That's my favorite part about this book. Now, for the last book, and the book that is on top of my totem pole, Love Theoretically. I ate this book up so fast. I absolutely love everything about this book. This book had me feeling some sort of way. It was so emotional, especially the part where Elsie finds out that she did not get her dream job, and that the job that she's been fighting for, interviewing for, and the job that basically holds the key to her success was not given to her. The emotional breakdown that Ali Hazelwood was able to write in that particular scene blew me out of the water. I felt so much emotion when I was reading that scene because honestly, same, it's relatable, but also she just did so well at writing out the character's emotion and everything she was facing at the time. So it was a really beautiful moment. I actually was reading that at 2 or 3 a.m. at night. My husband was bothering me to tell me I needed to go to sleep because I had work the next day. You know what my response to that was? No, I need to finish this because I can't stop in the middle of a scene where I'm a blubbering mess, she's a blubbering mess, and I want to know what happens to Elsie, right? So I stayed up later that night, finished that scene or finished that arc, and then I went to bed because that whole scene was so good and so emotionally distraught for me. I really enjoyed that scene. On top of this, I felt like Jack was a refreshing character. He knows what he wants and he goes after Elsie for it. Once he finds out she's not actually dating his brother, he went for it. He went 0 to 100 so fast. I absolutely adored it. He really adores Elsie in this book. He tries his best to win her love, and I really like that. I felt like there was a lot of character growth, especially with Elsie. Jack also ends up admitting to his wrongdoings, even though it did take him some time to get around to it. Some people felt like he should have done it without Elsie's help, but I also felt like it was a little bit realistic to how relationships work. Sometimes you don't really see the consequences of your action until someone is actually right there presenting you with the consequences to your face. So as soon as he found out and realized that, he made actions to atone it, which I really liked in this book. So overall, I can't seem to say that there are any parts of this book that I really did not like, but we'll see when I do a reread of this, which I really want to because I want to be able to tab and annotate this book. And yeah, that is it for all of my rankings of all my books. But with Ali Hazelwood's newest release, I really wonder where this book is going to land on the totem pole. I'm hoping that this is at least a 4 to a 5-star read. I'm really excited for this. Honestly, I feel like this could become my favorite Ali Hazelwood book so far. However, you know what I just noticed? Let me show you the thickness of this book against her other books. This is definitely a much smaller book than her previous books. So I'm wondering what she cut out and what she kept in. How many pages is there in this book? 386. Why does this feel so much thicker than this book? Am I crazy? Why is this one thicker than this one? I'm so confused. Huh? You know what? That's not the point of this video. Okay, the ending did get a little bit chaotic there for a second because my eyes are not working. The visualization is not visualizing because it makes no sense to me. I gotta check it out once I hop off this video. But for now, that is it for my Ali Hazelwood book rankings. Do you agree with my rankings? What would you change about it? Which book is your favorite Ali Hazel book so far? Definitely let me know down in the comments, or let me know if you are planning to read Not in Love, because I am going to get ready to dive into this book ASAP as soon as I finish the Percy Jackson Sea of Monsters. And with that, thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It would mean the world to me if you did that. Also, make sure to check back next week to see where Not in Love lands on my Ali Hazelwood totem pole. I am so excited for it. So be on the lookout for my reading vlog coming up next week. And this wraps up the video, and I will see you guys then. Bye!